Welcome to the Magdalene Voices, giving voice to those silenced for centuries through sacred conversations with beautiful, illuminating souls. I'm your host, spiritual business coach, mentor, catalyst, and facilitator, Maria Estela. I serve spiritual entrepreneurs, Magdalene's rising, and radiant beings just like you with the expansion and growth of yourself and your business, aligning you with your deep inner truth, bringing to life that which you're here to birth, and supporting you in expressing your soul's divine purpose through your being and your doing in this lifetime. If you haven't already, I highly encourage you to join my newsletters to stay connected and updated. You can do so on my website, mariaestela.com, where you can also find previous episodes and their show notes. And if you've ever wondered about your Magdalene connection and calling, and whether you are a Magdalene, I invite you to download the free Magdalene blueprint I've created for you. Go to mariaestela.com/AYM to get it. Today I am joined by Rachel Goodwin. Rachel is a New Earth teacher and healer, channeling Ascended Master Sara, daughter of the Magdalene, and working with an ascension grid in the sacred town of Roskilde, Denmark. Rachel teaches you how to connect and work with Sara's energy through her online school, offers one-on-one channeled Sara sessions, and how to grow your own ascension grid from the place where you live. In this sacred conversation, we dive into all things Sara, although it might not be fully as you would expect. Rather than focus on Sara's human existence, we hone in on her mission as an ascended master and the support she, as a teacher, can give to those of us who's open to it. As always, I invite you to listen with an open heart and mind and take only what serves you and leave the rest. Here is our sacred conversation. Rachel, welcome to the Magdalene Voices. Thank you for connecting with me, and thank you for being willing to come on the show to talk about someone who we haven't, I think we've briefly touched upon her in one episode at one time, but we didn't really dive deep into it. And that person is Sara. Someone that you are deeply connected to, and I guess for those of us, not us, I know who she is, but for those of the listeners who don't know who Sara is and why she's actually important in the sense of the whole story, I would love for you to perhaps start us off there by actually letting us know who Sara is or was. Let's start with that.
Okay. So Sara is the daughter of Mary Magdalene and the Master Jesus. And when she very first came through to me, she introduced herself as the daughter of Mary Magdalene. I'm very much a divine feminine person, and it's one of my missions in this lifetime is to integrate the masculine and the feminine together in oneness. But in my soul energy, I'm a total goddess, divine feminine. And she is stepping forward now as we are shifting the energies on the earth. We all know there's a lot of work to do and we need spiritual help.
Yes.
And she is phenomenal, absolutely just so powerful. If you invite Sara into your life, expect changes. To work with her in steps and then have a break, because it's too much. We can't transform that fast.
No.
You have to kind of work with her, have a break. Break.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of connections with her. And I love her. Sometimes I hate her.
Yeah.
The bit of a love sweet relationship.
Yes.
But yeah, it's been an amazing, amazing journey.
But that's usually how it is when when people, when I say people, I know she's on a spirit level, but or on a soul level, but when we're being called and not babied, not like, because we're strong, powerful, connected, spiritual women, and in my experience, I haven't directly worked with Sara, but I work with Mary, and she's also someone who she won't baby me. She won't allow me to wallow in suffering or pain. She will ask for me to rise, and so I guess that's where we have that love and hate relationship. In terms of one of the things I find so very interesting, because that is integral to the work that I do, is the blending. I was going to say balancing, but it's not really balancing. It's blending the essences of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And one of the things that you say is that is actually embodied within Sara. How is that?
So one of the first channelings that I did, because I'm a channel and an energy healer. That was what she was talking about. So before she came along, I connected initially. I mean, the very first kind of ascended master that came to me, I went on a workshop for ascended masters and how to work with them. It was Jesus.
Yeah.
And I was a bit like, oh.
Yeah.
Because I wanted Kuan Yin or someone, someone a bit Eastern and a bit, esoteric. And I was a bit disappointed. I mean, I was brought up in the Church of England, very dull Protestant church.
Yeah.
And it didn't meet my spiritual needs at all.
No.
And the stories I was told about Jesus, and when I studied it at school, I took exams in religious studies and things. I've always been interested in religions, but it was like, oh, Jesus. And then he said to me, look, I'm not who you've been told I am.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then after that, I really worked a lot with Mary Magdalene, basically. I mean, she came through as Lady Nada, but then sort of shifted it. She was really Mary Magdalene to me. And then a few years up the line, Sara turned up. And I didn't really know who she was. But, first and foremost, I'm an energy healer. So I work with energies. Everything's energy to me. I can't talk about anything without saying this energy, that energy, this feeling. And she was like Mary Magdalene and the Master Jesus energies all rolled up into one. And it was just like, it was so bizarre. I was just like, what is this? What's going on? And it probably took me a year to sort of work it all out. But one of the first channelings that I did from her, that's what she says. She says, I am the divine masculine and the divine feminine brought together to create a third energy. So she's not the divine masculine and feminine in balance.
No.
How we would sort of think of the sacred marriage. She is a third energy that is being created out of the two of them.
Okay.
And paradoxically, her energy, because she's like you could say she's like an archetypal force. She represents an archetypal force of the divine. Paradoxically, her energy is more ancient than the Master Jesus. And she is what was before it went into separation.
That
makes she such a challenge to work with, because although this isn't a new energy, it's not a new energy, but it is new at this level of manifestation that we're living in, where we're living in on the earth. This energy has not been here in this density of matter before. So it is, she's for people who really people know if they're called to work with. They go, oh yes, and they don't know why. Why I'm so excited, because there's not so much written about her.
No. And I think, I mean, that's also, first of all, I want to emphasize one of the things that you said in terms of Jesus or Yeshua, is that very often, you know, being a Magdalene or starting to work with the Magdalenes, whether it be Mary Magdalene, some of the other Magdalenes, Sarah, the as much as I don't want to say hate, but as much as I, you know, have had strong feelings against the way that the church has been spread into the world, I also see how his name has been brought into basically every household as a gateway, and I
Yeah.
and that was the same thing for me. I also hear in the work that I do with people, I hear that, you know, that he's usually who shows up first, because though he's the one that we're able to recognize, and then he says, oh, by the way, let me introduce you to this one and this one and this one and this one, and then you can start working with those as well. The in terms of the ancient, that makes total sense. I mean, it makes total sense. I get goosebumps. It makes total sense in terms of the that her energy would be way more ancient, and also that I can't help but revel in the fact that we've come to a point where we have lifted our vibration or our energy to a point where we're able to welcome her in. And finally, I want to say in terms of, but I will also have mentioned this in the intro, because in terms of her story and not being written, you know, there are two ways, and one in terms of, because there are many who ascribe to the sacred bloodline and starts looking for the bloodline, and then that becomes a whole
thing.
It becomes a whole smoke screen. And that's one of the things that I see in this work and having this show, is that I try to get rid of the smoke screen, so that we're not looking, because if you're just looking at the external, you don't reap the rewards, you don't learn the lessons, you don't harvest the gold that they're actually, if you focus on like who she was born of and when and where and how and so forth. So in terms of that, it's important. And then of course there is the whole patriarchal, or I would say Christian way of, you know, doing away with the divine feminine. And so of course Sarah wouldn't be recognized within the church, just as Mary Magdalene wasn't recognized within the church. And so I can understand and see why that would be the case, that there's not a whole lot written. But I mean, the codes have been planted within us. So when did she show up for you?
She showed up for me when I went to Hawaii in 2005. I was already on a spiritual path, but I trained as a priestess of the goddess. And I really got called to go to Hawaii, and it came about, and off I went on a retreat, and to connect with the dolphins and the land. And it was amazing. That was kind of really the start of me realizing that I could read earth energies. It just sort of happened. And when I got back, I ran a series of workshops connecting with different sacred sites out there, like earth vortexes and things like that. And at the end of each workshop, I would channel a Hawaiian goddess, or, you know, the goddess of the sea, or Pele, the volcano lava goddess. And then on the last one, we were working with the place of refuge, which is a sacred place on the big island of Hawaii. And it's just it's just this love energy that's just like, it's just so yummy. And so at the end of it, I opened up to channel, expecting, I don't know, Hina or one of these Hawaiian goddesses to come through. And it was Sara. And she said something like, welcome, I am Sara, daughter of the Magdalene. And so I had these words in my head, and I was just like, what? who are you? I mean, I had her mentioned, but she wasn't somebody I particularly felt interested in. I didn't believe in her. But the thing is with channeling, if you don't kind of say what you get, you don't get the next bit.
No.
So it was there and just, you know, or say it. And they were a really nice group of people that I was working with. So I thought, well, you know, I'm sure they'll be polite, whatever happens here.
Yeah.
So I did this channeling from her where she said, you know, who she was, and she talked about love being the key to everything.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
And then she never left. She came through on that channeling, and then she never left. And because I see the sort of the people, spirits, deities, whatever you want to call them. I see them as colours when I work with them a lot. And Mary Magdalene I would see as pink, and the Master Jesus I would see as yellow. So the names, you know, I am really not hung up on what people call them. I don't care, because I see them in my head. They're this energy that I connect with.
Yeah.
And Mary was green. And she drove me nuts for ages, because it's like I couldn't shut my eyes for a moment without seeing green. I couldn't go to sleep. I couldn't, you know, she just like really intensely came through for like about a year. And I sort of worked out what was going on, and then she sort of lessened off. And now I tend to, because I did have her with me all the time for a really long time, but now I've realized that I can't cope with that intensity.
No. Yeah.
Now I roll her out when I need her.
Yeah. I was laughing so hard because, first of all, because I recognize what you're saying, and I can, you know, I can recognize, and I also can sense that there is a lot of people who will be recognizing this, that thing of like, are you really sure that I'm supposed to say this? Like, right before we went on, I share with you how when the notion of the Magdalene Voices as a show and podcast came to me, I was like, are you sure you have the right person? Like, are you like, and they were like, yep, that's you. Like, it just kept coming. And of course, all of the I don't want to say acknowledgement, but all of the, you know, the signs that came after of people just saying yes to coming on and being part of this has just been like such a confirmation upon confirmation. But I recognize that, you know, that how fun, like, because again, sometimes spirituality can get so, because, you know, we go through dark nights of our soul, we have rude awakenings, there is enough shit to deal with. So, you know, there's also that light side where it's just joyous and love and I recognize that part where you're like, really? Like, you really want me to say that? Like, you should. And it's like, who are you? And also the terms of our expectations, right? Letting go of, you know, you sit there thinking, okay, now this one is going to show up, and then there's like, hello, and it's like, what? That's so beautiful in a way, because like once they want to come through, they'll come through, and they usually come before we're ready, right? Like, they usually come before we think we're ready. Like, we think we need to be at a certain point, and you know, and then
because this is really not how I saw my life panning out. Talk about Sarah, daughter of Jesus and Mary. Imagine for myself. I wanted to just go back to what you were saying before. About that kind of, that whole, because I mean, it's interesting actually. My dad took me out to Rennes-le-Château in 1985. My mum and my dad and me. He was like the most ordinary person. He worked as an engineer on the ferries, sailing from Dover to Calais and Folkestone to Boulogne. And he, you know, there was nothing esoteric about my parents, but he read that book, The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, and he got completely caught by it. We went on holiday to France every year anyway, because I loved France parents, and I lived right, you could see France from where the town where I lived in Kent in the UK. You could see like the factories in Calais.
But he took us there, and I had some really amazing experiences there when I was 15, and I was not open to spiritual stuff at either. So I just thought I was mad and lost the plot. I forgot my now. I sort of went round the circles there, didn't I? Oh yeah, but that's it. But when I started channeling Sara, it wasn't because she was someone I believed in, or had very much interest in. But on a soul level, I just love her to death. I do. I just love her. And I can't, help that. But this isn't something that I chose with my ego personality, and I've never channeled, asked her for information about her life. I don't want to get into all that stuff, because people can get very tied up with who she was and where she lived, and I don't really want to work with, like, there's a lot of stuff happening now, let's deal with that, because it's really important is what we can do to, make the world a better place, and our consciousness and shadows, and she has so much to say about all of that. She has so much to help with all of that. So that's what I dedicate my time to, and I just don't get into. I have had some visions and experiences and stuff like that, but just because I was connecting to her energy, things were just coming up, strong emotions, like that. But I'm not terribly interested, to be honest. And people can get quite upset with me about that, because they think I'm going to be like some sort of Sara life expert, and I'm really not. So.
And I think in my experience, the ascended masters who choose to come back to earth, they have a specific mission. They're here to insert certain keys, here to support the raising of the vibration and the energy and so forth. And I've said this many times, but the way that I view Mary Magdalene and Yeshua was, they had to create a shift in paradigm from a fear-based paradigm, the old paradigm, the patriarchy, to the love-based paradigm. And I see that that's what they came to, quote unquote, insert, install, implement, and support us with here on earth. And absolutely the whole, their story has valuable lessons in it, but when it becomes so distorted as that's the way that I view it today. Just 4 days ago, they had the Vatican had this, thing on child molestation and child abuse by their priests within the Catholic Church. And part of that is why, that's part of that whole abuse is to me a result of cutting away your divine feminine essence. When you deny, ignore, suppress your divine feminine essence of knowing, of being, you divert yourself into lower frequencies, and you become susceptible to what is not good and what is not of love for love, and what is not, quote unquote, of God is what I call God. And so being attached to the external appearances of those ascended masters who've come before and will come again, and perhaps maybe even be walking with us right now, is again, like I said, it's a smokescreen. It takes you away from the truth of it, and that is that the truth, like you said, love is the way, or love is the key, and that resides within your heart, meaning you have access to it at all times, because as you also said, energy, and we're all connected. Like energy means that we're all basically connected, even though we're in this dense matter. And I've heard that from other people, and I feel the same in terms of I'm not really hung up. And according to the legends, Mary Magdalene was, she was in southern France. Even though I've done this show for almost 2 years, I've never really felt a strong call to go to southern France to be with, quote unquote, her there, because really I can be with her anywhere. And so I would love to go one day, but still it's not been that, I haven't felt the pull to go, if that makes sense. So I just want, to those who are listening, I want to encourage you to know that is within you, that you don't need to go to a certain place to connect with someone, or so how do you connect with her now?
Well, I mean, I teach different ways to people to connect with her. I mean, for me, I just start talking to her.
Yeah.
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 But there's other, there's other things that I teach people, lighting a candle, and there's different chants you can use. And
yeah,
I mean, some people find her easier to connect to than others, because her energy, it is still a little bit futuristic, if you like, although I'm saying her energy is ancient. When I first started connecting with her in 2005, she wasn't actually here in the same way that she is now. She came in, oh God, my memory's so bad, I lose track of numbers and facts all the time, but she came in a few years ago, and like in 2005, it was like if you drop a pebble into the water and the rings keep spreading out, her energy was coming like backwards from the future when we first started working with her. And it's still so in January I did like a 3-week we did like an online course connecting with her, and she has an ashram which is above the Pacific, and the energy, it's still, we could see that she's going to be coming, we're going to be going up, and we're going to meet at some point, and it hasn't happened yet. So sometimes people need a little bit of an extra help to connect with her in the way you don't if it's Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene and the Master Jesus, they do a lot in preparing us to connect to Sarah. Everything. Mary Magdalene does a lot with healing the wounds and all that. The Master Jesus does a lot with like that sort of that sun energy. You've got to be able to stand in your truth and all these kind of things. Which is essentially
what you just described, what is, the essence of the divine feminine and the essence of the divine masculine. And it's, to me, it's about lifting the veils. Like, it's not about, as you said, it's about lifting yourself, the vibration, to a point where she's able to meet you. And I also get the sense that, the more who are connecting with her, and the more who are, opening up the gateways and, allowing that in, the easier that access will become for those who are then willing to work with her. And that would make sense in terms of why she's in the future, because she's coming. That makes total sense.
This is a physical process that I'm talking about. When I'm saying about the energies, I'm talking about actually physically, because it's not so much the consciousness or someone's soul energy. It's not that. Connect with Sarah. Sarah is also very unusual as far as ascended masters go, because she can be present in any of the spheres. When I first started channeling, I realized quite fast that I had to be in quite a high state of consciousness to connect with some of them. If I was in a bad place that day, it wasn't going to happen.
No.
Sarah, it's not the case with Sarah. You can connect to Sarah from wherever you are. You can be in the darkest, worst, awful hellhole, and she can still, because she has this archetypal energy of oneness, and she integrates. As soon as you call her in, she starts integrating everything. It's more that physically for us, because there's something about, she's coming here to help us bring ourselves into oneness with our like divine self.
Yeah.
But it's a physical process.
Yes.
And she is actually in the etheric.
Yeah.
I don't really understand what that means.
No.
I just know it's like really, really true.
Yeah.
And probably people listening will know a lot more about that.
No, but that makes to me at least, it makes total sense. That's because we're currently in the, in the space of form and matter. The density of that is very, it's very dense. It's a very dense matter. And so when she's in the etheric, because one of the ways that, at least, one of the lessons that I've harvested from Yeshua has been how, him being able to raise the dead and heal the sick and so forth was not a matter of something from the outside in. It was a matter of him seeing them as healed and whole, aka raising their vibration and energy to a point where that was not a part of it. And so it makes sense why we in the dense matter is because it makes total sense that we are in the dense matter. And so currently and like you say, it's not about the vibration or not about the consciousness, because that's in the mind. It's about the energy, and that's something different. We're just in the lowest, I don't want to say vibration, because being dense is not necessarily the lowest vibration, but the vibration is to the point where it becomes matter. And so when she's in the etheric, we can actually, and I've said this over and over again on the show, is that to me, being enlightened doesn't mean taking off and saying see ya suckers and just leaving Earth, abandoning Earth. It means bringing in the light, being able to hold the light within. And once you bring light into yourselves, and once you understand that DNA is not fixed and your cells are not fixed, but you're able to bring in that light, then you actually you become lighter, and you become quote unquote enlightened from within. So it makes what you're saying makes total sense to me.
But the fact that she's in the etheric, that's incredibly low for what we call an ascended master. Normally you would raise your consciousness up to quite a high level of where we are. But she is like physically present in the etheric. The etheric realms, it is still a physical realm, though it's not as dense as what we're in. So she is actually tangibly present on that, and that is because she has this kind of mission to work with us. She's not here. She's really not here to tell us what to do.
No.
You work with Sara. Every question you ask her answer will be telling you how to work it out for yourself.
Yes.
She will supply the missing pieces, because those of us that are working with her, it's because we're coming into our own mastery. So she's not a spiritual guide as such. She's a teacher, I suppose. And she really walks at your side. Gives you a lot of support, but she'll never tell you what to do, which has driven me mad over the years. I'm like, just tell me what to do.
Yes.
What to have to decide, and it's like, no.
And I guess that is one of the true lessons of I don't know if I want to call it spirituality, but it is that you always carry the answer. I like to say, elevate the teachings, not the teacher. I can't remember. I don't know where I got. It's not mine. I don't want to claim that this is not something that I came up with. I heard it and it was so true. Elevate the teachings and not the teacher, because those are the teachings that are going to support you in raising your vibration and unveiling yourself and healing whatever needs to be healed, so that you can move forward, and not only move yourself forward, but also move the planet and our collective forward. So it's not just about you. So that makes total sense. And I've, as a coach, that, I have had clients who they will be pissed with me as well, where I'm like, what do you think? And they're like, no, I just want the answer. I'm like, I have my own answer, but giving you the answer won't serve you. It's the whole, it's the whole story of teaching people to fish, or feeding them fish, or teaching them to fish. If you're being taught how to fish, you become self-sufficient, and you can deal with your. And to me, that's part of, again, organized. And I've said this before. I'm not necessarily on a rampage against organized religion if people find it to be helpful, but it's just, are you a mindless sheep, or are you actually someone who's connected, who's knowledgeable, who has access to your own gnosis and the wisdom? Because we all do. It's not just the priest. And if you look at, like, historically, if you look at the way it was, in early Christianity, there wasn't one person. It was like different people giving sermons. It was not just one, because we all have access to that gnosis. One of the things that you mentioned, and I wanted to bring this up, was because you're British, but you actually now live in Denmark.
Yeah.
Yay, go Denmark. And one of the things that I read about you was that you discovered a sacred site in your backyard, and that was a surprise to you. And I just want to say that my whole point of saying this is, like I said to you before we went on, is I want people to know that we're not always, because it's so easy for us to think, oh, I need to go to southern France, or I need to go to Egypt, or I need to go to Avalon or Glastonbury, or I need to go to these quote unquote sacred sites. But in truth, there are sacred sites across the globe. Mm. So tell me, like, what happened? Like, how did you discover that you had a sacred site? And of course, Roskilde, for those of us who know Roskilde, that would make sense, because that's where, go ahead. We'll talk more about, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I started doing energy healing. I was a psychiatric nurse for about 7 years in my 20s. And towards the end of that, I discovered Reiki and learned how to do energy healing. And that's what sort of started this whole trip off. Well, not quite true. My mum died, actually, when I was 26. And she had started having some healing, because it really brought her a lot of pain relief and a sense of well-being. She was ill with cancer. I was very worried about her. So I was just finishing my nurse's training, and I thought, oh my God, who's this nutter that she's seeing? And I traveled 80 miles to go and meet this man who was just completely ordinary and had like Marks and Spencer's cardigan on and was just really nice. Oh, hello. Oh, hello. I was like, because I was just so skeptical about anything. Like that. And I think he said to my mum, your daughter's a healer. And then she told me, you're a healer. And I was like, yeah, right, Mum. She tried to get me to read books. And because she was really good. She would get me to read Louise Hay's and Susan Jeffers and all that. And I read it, and it worked. I took all this stuff in, but the healing thing, no. And then she died. And then it just, it was like she was like nagging me in my ear. You're a healer. And for a couple of years I got bored with this constant, and I got a book on healing, a guy called David Furlong, and he had all these exercises in it, and I read it, and I was like, I could just do it, and I was just like, oh my god, I can, that's real. And then I went and did like Reiki training, and then so over the years my sensitivity has just grown more and more and more. And then at some point I realized that, when I traveled around different places, I could read the energy of the landscape. Like I can see when things are doing things, like when stones are doing things, I'm like, oh my God, that stone's going vroom, vroom, vroom. And like it took me, I don't know, 5-10 years to realize that I wasn't imagining it. I've actually realized now that I can read a landscape, and I can read the energy lines, and so my husband is Danish. He works in a university. He's a researcher in child education, young children, and he couldn't get work in the UK because we don't have that sort of specialist research at that age very much, because most of the kids are at home with their parents, because childcare is expensive under the age of 5 in the UK. And so we had to come here, and I very, very grudgingly came to Denmark, much against my will, but also because I have my eldest son lives in the UK, so it was just heartbreaking. Coming here, and then I had to learn Danish.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you. And and then I arrived in Roskilde in like a heartbroken state, but I knew there were springs. So I was like, right, I love springs. You know, I spent a lot of time down in Glastonbury.
Yeah.
And I mean, sacred sites, they are places where, I mean, this is how I think of them, where the earth is more conscious.
Yeah.
Because the earth is already an actualized, enlightened being. Her level of consciousness is so vast and so high, but she's kind of taken us on as a project.
Oh, yeah.
And we aren't at that level of consciousness.
Yeah.
And so there's parts of the earth where her consciousness is physically where she's at, and then the rest of it is like not.
Yeah.
Like pockets of stuff that we are now having to come into mastery so we can learn how to deal with it. It's our stuff we've got to clean up. And this is really interesting, because this is where Sara and the earth stuff come together. Because for years I was thinking I had these two separate paths with the earth energy with Sara, and now this year she's teaching me a lot of stuff about, because a lot of us are downloading really high dimensional energies, but we're living in a 3D world. So our family systems and our work systems are 3D. And I think what creates a lot of the ascension symptoms, because we're being pulled apart too far. And actually, as time goes on, it seems to be getting worse. So a lot of the stuff she's teaching me at the moment is about how to create fixes, create a fix. It's like a punch. So it's not, because we are, so the 5D system, or however you want to think of it, or what name you call it, the new earth or whatever, it's being up at the moment. It's in the process of being created. It's not there yet. So we have to go through this process of like straddling two worlds. And Sara, with her energy of like integration, she's in all of this. She can really help us like bridge the gap. And she's teaching me quite a lot of fixes. And one of them is you can actually start creating a like fifth dimensional net around your neighborhood.
Nice.
Which is absolutely great, because we need to start working with the places where we live. Because like I said, the earth consciousness is really, really high. There's a lot of stuff around building a relationship with the land that we need to do, and cleaning up, but there's so much help.
And so first of all, there's like a couple of things I want to emphasize. Number one, you said about what was it you said in terms of first of all, what you say about working, because now I get it. Hold on. Because the way that I view it today is that, those of us who were, kind of, I don't want to say thick-headed, but it's like we it's taken us longer to open up and to begin downloading and receiving, being receptible, flexible enough to do his work. And I see that there's a whole wave of souls or generations that are coming where it's normal. And that's because you went through this, you downloaded this, you began talking about it, teaching, sharing, and so forth. So it becomes more quote unquote normal and understandable and accessible to people in the world. And the more of us that do that, the easier it becomes for those who come after to continue the work. And they have, quote unquote, I don't want to say, because I think everybody goes through their own shit, but they have an easier time. It's more accessible and more acceptable, the things and the concepts that we're talking about. And what I love about what you're saying is that, again, it's not about saying, see ya, suckers, and taking off, but it's about, supporting the ascension, the awakening, the transformation, the healing of all, of all. And that's what I hear in what you're saying in terms of creating those fixes. And yes. So yes. High fives and chest bumps. Yes. Sorry, I cut you off.
Something else that's really come up
in the last 6 months is, I mean, last year I went on a Nordic shamanism course in Sweden. And we, you know, because I really love going to like Grauhöj and dolmens and all this kind of thing. And there's a lot of it around Roskilde Fjord. Really like 5,000-year-old stones and those people, they put these stones at such powerful earth energy site. But also the people that are buried at them, I've realised, knew about, because they've been telling me, they knew about what was going to happen now. And they're actually part of it as well. And it's like, so our ancestors, because we sort of think like, you know, because we've lost this kind of indigenous tribal mentality, we kind of forget that it is actually part of humanity to be a shaman. Be a wise woman, to be a wizard or a, you know, this is actually inherent in our DNA, and this is really waking up again now, and that's all in the hand as well, because our this programming into the hand, and you know, we sort of think they don't know, but they do. So do they, waiting for us to wake up.
And I can also, in terms of what you were saying, because I know that Roskilde is very I mean, to me, I've always considered Roskilde to be very spiritual and connected. I don't know how I know that, but that's just been my sense. But also, I can't help but think that because we have the Domkirke, which is which is one of the main churches, where all of the or most of the kings and queens of Denmark are buried and have been buried and will be buried. So like, it's a very, very sacred, there's a huge church, which is this, you know, it's a very sacred site. And I'm sure that site has been used even before a church, because very often the churches are built upon sacred sites from, you know, ancient times. And so I can't help but think that there is a connection to that as well, because this is where our kings and queens are buried now and in the future.
So when I came to Roskilde, I knew there were springs, and I started exploring. And under this part of Sjælland, there's glacier meltwater from the age, and it's held there by limestone. And this water comes out in loads of different places. I mean, there's about 8 springs in the town that you can visit publicly, but there's more, and you know, and it extends out a long way. And this it's just so pure, this water. It really, really keeps the energy here very, very clear, which is unusual in a town because of all the people, and you know, just talking on an energetic level, things get very, very polluted. But there is an amazing amount of ley lines coming into this town. And we also have Lyre not too far away, which was the spiritual power center, kingdom, you know, before Christianity as well. So there's a lot of pagan stuff there as well. So this area, it's like, it's just, I couldn't believe it when I came here, and I was the only person going around these springs and meditating at them. And I was just like, because I'm used to being in Glastonbury and Arizona, places like that. Just being surrounded.
And you do tours, right? You do.
How does no one notice this? This is just going, hello.
Yeah, but you do tours, right? You do tours around. Okay. Yeah. Well, Rachel, we could go on for hours and hours, as it always is whenever we dive in. I know that you mentioned that you may wanted to share a message from Sara. Is that calling you still, or? I can kind of feel like once I said that, I could feel like my heart was going, whoa.
I would like to give people the opportunity to just tune in a little bit to that energy. So, I mean, if you'd just like to just close your eyes and take a breath for a moment, and imagine that we're coming into sacred space with Sara. And I call this Sara's sacred circle. And you can imagine that you're somewhere beautiful out in nature, or in a cave, or anywhere you want to be. And I'd just like you to invite Sara into that space with you. And as you do that, her presence will come in. And she will start to ground you, because her presence is very, very grounding. So she connects, she sort of sends our roots down to the earth, and she sends our roots up to the highest heavens as well. And she balances us in the middle. And she can also like create this lovely spaciousness in our heart center. And that's the place where like the earth energies and then like the heavenly energies come in to oneness together in that heart center space. And I'd just like you to just rest here for a few moments, and I'm just going to channel some words from Sara. I have no idea what she's going to say, but it's more than the words, it's the energy that comes through, and each of you will receive some energy. Those of you that are opening up to it will receive some energy from Sara that she has just for you, actually. So I'll just call her in, and then when I start speaking again, it'll be Sara bringing her energy through. Welcome. My name is Sara. I am Sara. And my blessings are upon you this day. Often the messages that I bring are very simple, but they hold a depth and a meaning within them that can be reflected on and brought to mind again and again from time to time over the years. And then they will bring through a different meaning as your place in life and your perspective changes. I have come at this point to help humanity through this evolutionary process that you are in. And I am a guiding light, and yet I am also the darkness as well. The light and the darkness are brought together in fullness. Nothing is done away with. Nothing is not wanted in this place. Everything is brought together. And anything that is not of the divine simply dissolves and disappears. My main purpose at this time is to ground you all more. Many, many, many spiritual people are wonderful at connecting to high spiritual light, but not so adept at grounding down into Mother Earth's powerful resources. Shamanism is a wonderful way to ground oneself. And yet, none of these things are the final story. If you take everything that you come across in your life, everything adds up to the whole. And that is why I embrace each of you as the eclectic collection of unique originality that you are. No one else's story is right for you. Only your life story is right for you and has brought you to exactly the right point where you need to be. And celebrate that uniqueness in yourself, because we are each a spark of the divine. There is no one bloodline that is holier than another. We are all aspects of the divine and will, in the end, return to the source. I am Sara, and these are the words which I wish to speak to you this day. My blessings are upon you. Blessed be, blessed be, blessed be. Amen. Oh, she was strong today. Strong woman today.
Yes. And that was such a powerful message. And again, it seems as though it was kind of like the red thread that we have had throughout the conversation about grounding and not just, bringing light within and not focusing on the bloodlines and she's absolutely right. There's so many people who are able to open up but not able to actually ground. I mean, and that to me is actually part of the divine masculine is the grounding, and that's what she embodies so well. Whoa. I can still feel the vibrations are coming in strong.
Since I've worked with her, I've really become a person that appreciates everything. So every different spiritual discipline, I can see something really good and really useful, and none of them are better than the other. No. They all got to be there.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit, although I have to say I don't love politics, but I did sit. One time I was at language school, they invited all of the different political parties in to speak to us.
Yeah.
And I sat and I listened to each of them. And, to be honest, if I had to choose a politics, I would probably be a lefty, liberal type, intellectual, let's save the world type of person. But as I listened to each of them, I thought, God, they've all got a point. Yeah. And if you put them all together, it makes a wonderful whole. And actually, if you take any of them out, something's going to be missing.
Yes.
I think the place where we fall down in our society is that, because like you could say, we're not using that feminine intuition. We're not realizing when things are getting out of balance enough. So it's like, we've got this now we need to bring in a little bit more of this, and then everything's going to be fine. Like at the moment we're so polarized.
I had
such an extreme point now.
The last time we had an election here in Denmark, one of my youngest nephew, he is now 10. He was 9 at the time. One of his friend's father is a politician and was asking to be voted into the city council. And my nephew said, "Oh, will you vote for so and so's father?" And I said, "No, I won't." And he was like, "Oh, why not?" And I said, "Okay, so if you and your brothers want to go to school, we all agree on the common goal, like we need to get to school, but there are different ways to get there. And the way that he wants to take is a different way from the one that I want to take." And he was like, "Oh, okay, I totally got that." And that's the important thing, is that to remember that ultimately we carry the same, I would say we carry the same goal, but the way that we want to achieve it are different. And that's where we need to come together and find a common ground and a solution for the betterment of all and for the earth. I was going to say Sarah, but I meant Rachel. Is there anything that we haven't touched upon, or something that you would like, final words that you would like to say before we leave people?
I wanted to mention my website, because there's some resources on there.
Yes.
It's rachelgoodwin.dk, because I'm in Denmark. And there's a Sara page. And if you go onto the Sara page, a pop-up will come up. And if you sign up for that pop-up, you'll get that Sara channeling that I was talking about, which is sort of like the foundational channeling that lays out why she's here and
And I will include all of that. Like I will, in the show notes, there'll be a link to my site where you will have all the links to, you mentioned different books as well. And I'll have a link to your website and to the page and everything. So that will be, so if people need to find it, just click the link in the show notes and that will take you so you can find everything.
Yeah. And this year there's a blog on there. If you look on there, there's an ascension pathway for 2019, and every month I do like a transmission from Sara. There's different ways you can get into that, but if you just look at the blog, it will say that on there. But yeah, I mean, she has so much work to do with us.
Yes,
it is amazing.
And it sounds like this is actually like a sounding call. It's like this is being spread out into the world so that those who are ready to work with her and feel called will know to show up. So that's just, yeah, it's again, such a beautiful thing to be a part of, to be like that bell that's calling out, or sounding bell. Rachel, it's been a joy to join you in Sacred Conversation. Thank you so much for having been part of this, and blessings to everyone who's listened in. I love you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
That is what I had for you in today's episode of the Magdalene Voices. For all of the deeds and the details, find the show notes on my website, mariastella.com. Know that I would love to hear how it resonated with you and what you got from it. So tag me on Instagram or leave me a comment on either my website or YouTube. Finally, if it served you, please take a moment to share it with a friend or on social media. God bless.